Shields up, Ironbreakers, and welcome to the first episode of the Third Fleet podcast. As Monster Hunter World Iceborne has received what is kind of like essentially its maintenance mode update, I was thinking this last week, I really just want to talk more about Monster Hunter. So I figured that I would contact someone that I know, and probably most of you know. Probably you guys know him way before than you've known me, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, Gaijinhunter. How are you doing, sir?
Hello. Good evening. Good morning here, but the wonder of time zones, right?
We are on very different time zones, and we were talking just the other day. I called you up, and we were talking about just like a bunch of stuff and how we wanted to talk more about Monster Hunter and about a lot of topics around Monster Hunter, but not just that, right? I also want to talk about how you've not recently, but a couple of months ago, you forayed into Dragon's Dogma, which is another one of my big passion games. And more recently, you've been joining the Souls clan as well. You've been like taking a couple of forays into Dark Souls. Like, this is all very interesting for me. But before we even begin, I just want to tell you that the content that you've made in the past is one of the things that has helped me get into Monster Hunter. So it's kind of like almost a fanboy moment being in a podcast with you in a way. So no pressure or anything.
No, I'm a huge fan of yours. So it's actually the same thing. If I ever get to talk to somebody who I watch, it's always a cool thing. And it's just crazy when I hear that someone saw a video of mine and decided to make a video, because it feels like almost like a community passing of the torch. Because like I remember back in the day listening to Shepard during the third generation, so Third Fleet, and then I got inspired to do videos, and then I've made videos, and other people are now making videos. I think it's great.
I think the Monster Hunter is one of those communities that does have that, where like, at least I don't feel like there's that feeling of competition among the creators. It's always like, oh man, he's made a video about this. I'm going to have to get on that as well and like make a video of my own, see what I can do and whatnot. And it's just like the weapon guides that you've done in the past, like were instrumental in me actually learning how to play like 3U and 4U and whatnot. Cause you know, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of like hidden that the game doesn't really do a perfect job of explaining, which is one of the things that I feel really brings the community together. Everybody just like creating content around the things that the game maybe doesn't explain as well. And it is at the end of the day,
we're just trying to be the best hunters we can be, right?
Exactly. So I figured that we'd start off with talking about a more current topic, so to speak. And the thing that I want to talk about for starters is the Monster Hunter movie. What are your thoughts on the Monster Hunter movie?
So like I guess I've talked about this a few times in videos, but I'm in like I guess the rare crowd where I don't think the story is going to be good. I mean, I don't like the premise of it, but the CG looks awesome so far. Tony Jaa's awesome. So if I get a B-rated flick, if I get some cool-looking monsters and I get some cool Tony Jaa jumping around, I'm going to have a good time. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing it. Again, I have my expectations in check. I'm not thinking it's going to be a fantastic movie or anything. But as a diehard fan, there's going to be some stuff to enjoy. And it just annoys me that we're getting it so late here in Japan. It's going to be on Blu-ray before we even have it in Japan. But like we're not getting until March 26th. And it's already airing in certain countries.
So it comes out at around the same time as Monster Hunter Rise.
The exact same day. So I think their idea is, okay, people will watch the movie and play a completely unrelated Monster Hunter game, and it'll be a day of Monster Hunter.
It is kind of weird, but I do have to say, I feel like I'm in about the same field as you when it comes to the movie, because I've seen a lot of people say, oh my God, it's going to be bad because Mila Jovovich and Resident Evil movies and all of this other stuff. And I'm just like, look, I'm just looking for a film where I can grab a couple of popcorn and, you know, just enjoy a popcorn flick and just see cool monster visuals and, you know, see how the combat's going to do. And meanwhile, people are like, oh, but she's using fire dual blades against Rathalos. I'm like, yeah, it's a movie. It's not going to make that much sense.
I'm also a firm believer of don't knock it till you try it. So it's like, I get it. Like, the people are wary about it, and I think they've got some reasons, but it's like you can't really say it's bad or wrong until you see it, right?
Yeah. And yeah, I guess we kind of both land on the same point on that one for sure. I mean, you know,
Some people are like, well, it shouldn't be a B-rated flick. It should be it deserves the quadruple A quality. I'm like, you can say that about everything in this world. I mean,
pretty much.
we're never going to get like, I mean, unless Capcom, the development team, wants to make a movie themselves, which I think would be crazy awesome.
See, now
Like, you're just not going to get it.
yeah, because it's like
Legends of the Guild. Are you aware of the Legends of the Guild and what that was?
no. Tell me more.
So they announced a different Monster Hunter like movie like series called Legends of the Guild. It was going to be animated in the same way they do the cutscenes, like the CG animation for the cutscenes in the game. They were going to use that same method to do a series focusing on what they presumed to be. They didn't actually go into details, but it appeared to be the Ace Commander, which was the leader of the Ace Cadet, the excitable A-lister.
Yeah.
And it was a full, like, very heavy lore based story. And they had like a teaser picture of the Ace Commander going up against a Nursilla, and it was going to be awesome. And the thing is, like, that was supposed to come out like a year and a half ago, and it just went totally quiet. My guess is that they have an agreement with Anderson where if they're doing two visual contents for Monster Hunter, that his gets to come out first. And I think delays in the movie probably put delays in Legends of the Guild.
Yeah, of course.
I'm hoping they didn't kill it, but we don't know. But
dude, that sounds so much more interesting because you actually like it. Because I was actually talking about this with some of my audience about how, you know, Monster Hunter has this rich world in terms of lore and stuff. That the premise of the movie itself being an isekai was like the first big turnoff, right? I didn't even know the meaning of the word isekai before I was watching this because I was watching the trailer.
I didn't know it either because I don't watch much anime. So like when I heard it, I was like, that's a term? Like people use that?
So see how
like
was
I know the word,
know?
but it's like I didn't know that was a genre of story.
Yeah, like I had no idea, so I was watching the movie and I was like, oh, it's gonna be a portal. They're gonna go into the Monster Hunter world from our world, and people are like, yeah, it's an isekai, and I'm like, what the hell's an isekai? I have no idea. But
it does tickle my funny bone though that people know the word isekai and they could say it right, but yet everyone says karaoke and not karaoke.
Oh
it's
man,
like okay, well.
I've had so many things. I've had so many things where I try to pronounce things like the right way. Like I'll hear the way that they say monster names in the trailers and whatnot, and I'll try to say it the same way. Or for instance, the way that you said in your videos, you said "odogron," right? That's how I pronounce it.
Oh God, yeah. Everyone hates the way I can't say it in English.
And I'm like, well, I mean, Gaijin, you know, he speaks Japanese, he knows this kind of stuff. So I was just like, I'm just gonna call it "odogron" as well. And everybody's just like, it's "odogron," dude. It's "odogron." I was like, hey.
That's the problem. It's the hard R. I have a really hard time. There's like a mental block that makes it really hard for me to use a hard R in the middle of a word like that. It just feels like I'm bowling with my opposite hand, so to say.
Yeah, but it is interesting that there's all these things about pronunciation and whatnot.
But yeah, Legends of the Guild, I mean, if it's still on, which I think it is, like that's going to be the fans, that's what we actually,
that's what we actually would want for sure.
If we have to get through Hollywood and some cool CG to get to that, then I'm okay. Like, more Monster Hunter, the better, right?
I was watching the one of their trailers. I think it was the international trailer or something. And you know how there's like a super elemental discharge in the scene.
Yeah.
There's a super elemental discharge, and I was just like criticizing it and going like, I mean, clearly this hunter was not very experienced. He didn't hit with the actual hit, which would have done the most damage. He only hit the very last part of the elemental discharge.
Hey, I didn't see damage numbers. They turned it off.
But you know what the worst part is? You know what weapon they're using when he does that? It's a switch axe. So that was also pretty funny. Oh man! But yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day,
did you see the Japanese trailer? Because like there's like the American like super like Hollywood trailers. There's the international ones which are better generally, and then there's one Japanese official trailer which is actually really well done.
I saw like 4 or 5.
It's got
different
proof of the hero
trailers by
playing
now.
in the background and
Yeah,
everything.
I saw
so it
that
feels
one.
really.
I saw that one. That one felt a lot better, specifically because of Proof of a Hero, because everyone can relate to Proof of a Hero. Anyone that's played Monster Hunter, I feel like.
But you know, like, and like, I'm not getting into spoiler territory because I don't actually know the film, but I've heard a few things. And I think it's important to keep in mind that marketing and the actual film can be very different in tone. Like whoever's cutting those trailers is probably applying music that may not even be in the movie, as far as we know.
Yeah, they do
So,
tend to do that a lot of times.
like I heard rumors that it starts out not as like a weird military action flick, but almost like a horror movie. I heard rumors about that, saying that the whole being hunted by Diablos is almost like a horror flick, and it was really cool. I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. I was
mean,
like, well, I have no idea because the trailers all feel so different at this point that who knows what it is.
Every time that I not every time, but the first couple of times that I hunted a Diablos, it was always a horror film to begin with. So, like that's actually one of the hunts where I will just straight up pull out a lance. Like I made some of the first lance builds that I made were intended to basically go and kill Diablos in the
No,
easiest
you
ways.
mean lance as God intended, right? Like not gun lance, but lance, right?
Yes, I am talking about.
I was gonna say, I know you play Gunlance, and I thought it would be really funny trying to fight a Diablos with a Gunlance. You're just sitting there waiting for it.
Yeah,
You can't move around with a Gunlance too much.
you do end up waiting a lot, but there are ways. Like I have, like basically when I decided like Gunlance was going to be my main weapon, I was like, I have to beat every single monster with a Gunlance. And okay, so there's some monsters where I didn't do that, like Arch-Tempered Xenojiva, because that was annoying as hell. So I just went the easy route with the Insect Glaive. But most other monsters I've killed with the Gunlance. Even Safi, like I went against Safi and I made I actually made the 3 different shelling types. I've made builds to kill Safi with the 3 different shelling types, and all of them worked, and it was great. And we would always get like all of the part breaks and all of that stuff because I do dig the Gunlance. But here's the interesting thing, right? There's always that rivalry. Like we were even referencing it the first time we talked. There's always that rivalry between the Lance and the Gunlance.
It's a sibling beef, yeah.
I don't really see it like to me because I like both. To me, I actually like pretty much every weapon that has a shield. I'm into it because I love shields, right? Shields up, iron breakers,
Yeah.
and all that. It's because I really like shields. So I like the lance just like I like the gun lance. Well, I like the gun lance more obviously because it has explosions. So at the end of the day, it is the fun lance. So
The fun lance, yeah.
but then like
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I think it's not rivalry. Like, like this is better. This is better. I think it's
Yeah.
almost like siblings, where you've got like the older brothers like the lance, and like the cooler younger brother is the gun lance, and it's like making fun of each other, and
the
it's
older
just
brothers
they
like
look
the
so similar,
lance.
but they play so differently.
Yeah, they do. That's always the fun thing because, like, for instance, when I made the slap lance, whenever I play slap lance, people just ask me, "Why don't you just play lance?" And I'm just like, "You've never played lance, did you? You have no idea what you're talking about because it's so different."
I got to come up with some really fun messages to antagonize Gunlance players when I'm lancing. Like, hey, do you even have mobility, bro? And like, can you move? Hang on, I'll chase the monster. You just stand there and wait.
It was funny the first couple of times that I played Lance, and then like I go and I try to watch, for instance, G Rank Rupeku's stream. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's a really good Lance player, right? And so I'm watching him, and I'm just like, dude, I have no idea what you're doing with this weapon. Like I'm seeing him do the charge through and then immediately do the sweeping motion to turn around back and just flow from that into the poke combos. And I'm just like, dude,
it's a total vibe weapon, yeah.
this is like,
But I gotta say,
another
like,
level.
it's off subject from the movie, but I gotta say, your videos got me to try Gunlance recently. Because I saw you showing off and talking about the Fatalis Lance, Gunlance.
Like,
and I looked at it and I said, wait a second, they added that many new moves? It looks totally different. And so I made it and I tried it and I was like, this is really good.
yeah,
and I really enjoyed it.
the slap lance is a lot of fun. I mean, here's the thing, right? The gun lance in general in World is a ton of fun. And it's really cool because each shelling type essentially is its own play style. So you got the wide, which is poke, shell, poke. You got charge, which I actually played a lot of long shelling because long shelling is so cool because you can just, you put like your artillery points and your magazine points and everything else is whatever you want. It's just, it's artillery, magazine, and whatever else you want. So you get so much quality of life. The biggest problem with the Gunlance, and you didn't experience if you go straight for the slap lance, but the biggest problem with the Gunlance is the wormstake blast. Because in order for you to do shelling properly, all of the weapon balancing is done assuming that you're able to hit. Right? Yeah, you have to stick the thing and you have to land all of the shots in the wormstake blast. And that's possible up to a certain point, but when you start getting to some of the more agile monsters.
Yeah, it gets really tough.
It's just like, yeah, you see people doing it like Chaos Slayer. Like I've seen a lot of stuff from him where he would go and he would do Alatreon with pure shelling. And so basically he would die twice and then still finish the hunt like half an hour in or something. And I'm just like, you're crazy. I would never do that. But
I'm curious what they do with it the next game because they change Gunlance like every other game, right? Yeah, you had like the heat gauge system. You had just the basic Gunlance, and you have the wormstake. Like I wonder what they're gonna do for Rise.
Yeah, like I almost kind of want to go sword and shield, which is like the second weapon that I tend to focus on besides the Gunlance. Because I'm just scared that they do something like the wormstake again, which is like it's viable for the early monsters, and then later on you just start feeling the weakness of it. Like if you put, say, a stake in a monster that is just like moving all over the place, like say a Barioth, you're not going to get any benefit. By the time you get to actually hit him, the stake is over. So you're just sitting there. Well, I guess I'm going to go find some more ammunition to put another stake in. Here we go.
Oh man. So here's a weird question. Bringing it back to the movie. When does the movie come out where you're at?
I think it actually already came out. I just haven't really had the time to go see it because I want to see if I can arrange something with a couple of friends that also play Monster Hunter so that we can all go see it together. But I think it's actually already out here. At least I remember that I saw on the news that it was out on the 4th or on the 3rd or something like that. So I'm pretty sure the movie's already out here. I just haven't gotten around to going to see it.
Yeah, and I haven't seen much chatter online, so I don't know. Maybe it's only. I mean, I get it. People don't want to go out to a movie theater, and I don't blame them.
Yeah, right now. Everything. I'm also kind of a little bit, on the fence. Like, are they actually going to have safety norms on the theater? Are they going to be seating people like 1 seat apart, or are they just going to fill up the theater and not give a damn? Right? And it's like, oh,
yeah, that would worry me.
So yeah, I'm also concerned about that. But that's. Man, Gunlance and Lance, and what other weapons do you really enjoy playing in Monster Hunter? Like, what have you been playing in World?
So I mean, it's hard to say. I think I play all the weapons generally except Gunlance. It's like the one I don't touch usually. I know that sounds bad. Heavy bowgun I never touched outside of Generations because that was just crazy how good it was there with Valor. But I mean, I generally have like my main weapons are usually Insect Glaive, Hunting Horn, Lance, and perhaps Light Bowgun. But Light Bowgun in the world I didn't really discover until Fatalis. Or Alatreon, sorry. Huh?
Alatreon? Yeah, Alatreon, yeah.
Yeah, so it was
I'm pretty sure that's when you started using it because that's when they made the Alatreon Bowgun. And that was one,
so good.
That one was like one of the best, if not the best, elemental bowgun. I don't do a lot of bowgun stuff, but the first time that I used it was actually for Call of Taroth because I would just like be lazy hunting it, right? Because I'd be setting
That's
up
the thing.
lobbies.
Like I like to lazy hunt. Yeah. So I would use rapid shot. So I did that back in 4 Ultimate where I was a rapid level 2 user for light bowgun. So now I'm elemental rapid and it feels really nice.
Yeah, elemental rapid does feel like a lot of fun, but ultimately there's the thing about me and bowguns is that there's just so much to the weapon. Like, oh, you have to craft this thing and craft that. Like
it's high maintenance. Yeah.
One of my friends that actually got me into Monster Hunter was basically a bowgun main. Like I played Freedom Unite with him. That was actually the game that got me hooked. Was Freedom Unite.
Wow.
So I played Freedom Unite with him, and he would always be like doing clusters and whatnot. And I'd be trying to do things with the Gunlance, and I had no idea. Basically, my favorite thing is like, oh, I just want to wyvern fire, go up to the monster. Yeah, this is great. And then he trolled me with the Gips roast. I feel like Gips roast is a rite of passage whenever you bring a friend into Monster Hunter, right? You wait until he goes to sleep.
Dead. Let's carve it.
Yeah, let's go carve it. And then your friend goes in there and then he gets carded. Oh, I guess he wasn't quite dead yet. Oops.
It's like everyone knows to check the quest screen to see whether or not it's completed or not. And you're like, nope, he's faking it.
But
yeah. I remember back, like maybe not so much in World, but like in the older games, when you went online and somebody in the room, random, was either hunting horn or light bowgun, there was like this little fist pump that you did. You're like, yes,
I'm going to win.
Because everything that they do directly affects you as well and helps you out. So it's like, it's really exciting, at least for me, when you join a room and you've got someone like that. Now, hunting horn users who like to run in the corner and play songs, I've heard they exist. I've never run into any of them.
They do exist.
But
it's like,
I remember getting really excited. I was like, I want to be that person. So I decided to learn like hunting horn, fell in love with it.
Dude, I think hunting horn.
The rest is history.
Hunting horn is an incredibly fun weapon. I've only ever played hunting horn in World because before World, like my experience with Monster Hunter was very limited. Like some people might even be wondering, because we haven't even talked about this, the reason why this is called the Third Fleet Podcast. And I was actually surprised when you told me, but the reason we called this the Third Fleet Podcast because we're both third fleeters. So there's the whole thing about how theoretically speaking, each fleet in Monster Hunter World represents one generation of Monster Hunter. So Monster Hunter 1, Monster Hunter 2, and both me and Gaijin, like I started with Monster Hunter Tri, and Gaijin started with 3 Ultimate, right? That's what you told me?
Yeah, 3G in Japan. So yeah. You are my senpai.
So technically speaking, we're both third fleeters, but here's the reason why I told you at the time that didn't matter, because when I first played Monster Hunter Tri, I hated it.
You know the same story for me, right? I don't know if you know.
I didn't know that. You didn't like it either?
I was literally 2 hours away of selling my copy of Monster Hunter 3G and just not touching it. So I hated the game. After 10 hours, I hated it, and I really wanted to like it. And I ended up going out to lunch with a coworker who used to be into Monster Hunter big time. And I was like, I tried it. I don't like it. And so he gave me like the speech, and he's like, okay, you tell me what the game is. And I told him, he's like, okay, you're playing it like an action game. That's not what it is. And he tried to give me some mental like explanation about how the game actually works. So I said, fine, you know what? I won't sell it after lunch. I'll give it one more shot. And then it started clicking a little bit. Yeah. And then it started clicking. And then the rest is history. Like it clicked hard that weekend, and then I never looked back. But I was literally half a day away from selling my copy.
Jesus Christ. It's so interesting how similar it is. Because here's the deal for me, right? So I remember I had this friend of mine who kept telling me about how he used to play Monster Hunter in his PlayStation Portable. And he kept telling me about it. And he was like, oh man, this game is so good. You got to play it one of these days. And at the time, all I had was a PC. But eventually I bought a Wii because the Wii was such a big phenomenon, right? And I remember that when Monster Hunter Tri came out, I remember asking my friend, so should I buy this? Is this a game that I'm going to get into? And he's like, definitely, dude, get it. Like I bought the collector's edition, which had like a little treasure chest, and it had like a microphone for your Wii. It had all of these things in it. It had a pro controller and whatnot. And I was like, holy crap, I just spent a lot of money on this. And then I start playing the game and I'm like, this is terrible. I hate this. I hate everything about this game. I can't, I don't know. Like I press this button and he sheathes his weapon. Like I'm attacking these little dudes, but like, I don't understand what's going on. Like I'm just trying to learn
Where's
this.
the health gauge?
And then the big dude shows up and he kills me. And so like I tried
so I have to ask,
go ahead.
Was it Arzuros that punished you or not?
Arzuros? No, I actually think I made it all the way to Logi. I mean, not the full Logi, but like, you know how in Tri you get an introduction to Logi really soon? They put you on like this quest where you go underwater.
Logi. I like how you say that, Logi.
Yeah, Lagiacrus, right?
I say laggy, so.
Oh, laggy. Okay. So
Hachi, I like that.
so you go onto this quest where you go underwater, and then it's just like an introduction quest where they're like, oh, this is what's causing all of the problems and whatnot.
Oh my god, get out of there!
So even that quest, it took me so long to actually complete it because I would be like really slowly inching forward, trying not to aggro him because I was super scared.
That's the souls part of you, like that.
Exactly.
The tenacious part. The fact that you could stick all the way to that hunt and still not like it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So
like for me, it was like Arzuros. Like I couldn't beat him, and I was like, this game is dumb.
So anyway, I got to that point, and then I was like, okay, look, I don't like the way this game moves. I don't like the way this game controls. Like, I don't like anything about this. I quit. So I stopped playing it for a long time.
Wow.
And then eventually, when the PlayStation Vita came out, I bought one. And then at one point, they had like a special promotion where you could buy Freedom Unite. And so my friend was telling me, you should buy Freedom Unite. It's like, it's €9, dude. Just buy Freedom Unite. So I'm like, okay, fine, dude, whatever. I buy Freedom Unite. And here's the really cool thing. The Vita would actually allow you to play with a PSP. So like I had the Freedom Unite on the Vita, and you could ad hoc into a PSP and like play together. And my mind was blown. I was like, wow, what the hell? This is amazing. But anyway,
that, and you got the other analog stick as well, which you could use.
Yeah, exactly. I had the other analog stick.
So how did Try not click for you, but then Freedom Unite?
Because again, it was the same thing as you. Like I didn't understand what the game was. Like I was playing it like the same way that I would play a Legend of Zelda, or like the biggest game in my background at the time was actually World of Warcraft. So like I was used to challenging stuff because I did a lot of raiding and whatnot. And like I just like, okay, I want hard challenges. I want things that are hard, and I want to enjoy the fights and all of this. But I didn't understand what the game was. I was expecting it to just like go in there and kill stuff and advance through levels. And then when you had the zone separation and you had the different maps, like it's very confusing for someone to go from the mentality of like, oh, I have this game has this level, I go through this level, I beat the boss at the end. Monster Hunter is completely different. It has nothing to do with that. But what eventually clicked for me was seeing how my friend was playing, and my friend going like, oh yeah, and you can then craft this weapon, and if we kill this monster, we can craft this other thing. And that's when I started understanding it. And then at that point I was like, oh man, I want to play like a more updated version of this game. So I wanted to go back to try, but I gave away my Wii U, so I couldn't. And then eventually I emulated it on PC. Like I emulated Try on PC, but then I was like, well, but I can't play multiplayer with this one, so it kind of sucks. And then eventually I was just like, okay, I'm going to cave in and I will buy a 3DS just to play this game. And that's when I played 4U, and you know what 4U was as an entry point for people, right? And then after,
so have you
it was
played
like
3
over.
Ultimate? Have you ever played through 3 Ultimate?
Actually, I forgot about that. Before I got the 3DS, I got a Wii U. I got a Wii U so that I could play 3 Ultimate,
nice.
and I played 3 Ultimate, and I got a friend of mine into 3 Ultimate as well, a different friend into 3 Ultimate, and we both play a ton of 3 Ultimate. And then eventually I got into 4 Ultimate. As a matter of fact, me and my friend, we were like, I can't believe that this one's not coming out on the Wii U because we wanted to play it on the big screen, right? So... yeah, but
so what was your first main weapon that you beat the game with? Like whether it's 1 or 2, like what was the weapons?
That's the thing. I didn't beat 3. I mean, actually, I did beat the. Did I beat? I
guess Freedom Unite would be your first Monster Hunter you beat, right?
No, I didn't beat it. I didn't beat Freedom Unite. I didn't beat 3 Ultimate. I don't think. I'm not entirely sure. The first one that I beat was 4 Ultimate. And I think my main weapon in 4 Ultimate was actually the Insect Glaive because I loved the mounting mechanic. Because I mean, you guys had it on 4, but in the West, we didn't get 4. We only got 4 Ultimate. So, I just wanted to be able to mount monsters, and that was really good utility when you were playing with a friend. So I was like, I'll just
scream to everybody, stop hitting the monster.
I'll just
that must
play
be really
Insect
funny
Glaive.
for new players. It's like back in the day when you mounted a monster, you had to tell everybody to stop hitting the darn thing because they would flinch it and knock you off, and it was the worst feeling ever.
Oh, I had no idea because like I never really played with in lobbies with other hunters. I would just play with friends because one of the things.
So they knew what was going on.
Yeah. One of the things that always scared me in Monster Hunter was again, this comes back to that what you say of my Souls mentality. I would hate to be carried. Like I'm the kind of guy that like, no. I would not want to be carried ever, which is why I would only play with my friends because I knew what their progression level was. And I knew that they wouldn't
Yeah.
be like, overpowering the hunter or
Overpowered, yeah.
anything. So that's also one of the reasons why usually whenever there's a new monster, I go out and I hunt it by myself before I go into lobbies because I don't know what the skill levels of people are going to be because there's way better hunters than me out there. And that's one of the things. Like I want to make sure that I can kill something before I go
Yeah.
out and do it myself.
Well, I have a saying that's almost a meme at this point, but I always say that the good monster hunter online is when four soloists come together. It's like jazz.
It is.
Because everybody should be able to play and hunt really well on their own to a certain degree. And then and when you have everybody at that level, then everyone comes together. Everything is just a plus. There's no cons to it at all. And it's really great.
It does feel fantastic. But I do feel that like in World, when you have 4 players that are really good, it almost feels like unfair, right? The monster can barely you can just trip something into oblivion unless it's one of the more challenging monsters, which is
Yeah. It's always been like that though, I think.
yeah,
I
again,
don't know if you've seen.
but see, I wouldn't know because most of the time I only played with friends. World was really the first time that I really got super hardcore because of the fact that it was a worldwide release. And I was like, oh, I can actually create content on this one. Because the other ones is like, yeah, sure, I would make content on them, but all of the guides and all that stuff would have been done by people who know Japanese, like yourself. And so I'd be like, what am I going to do? I'm super late to it. But with World, I was like, dude, I'm coming in and I'm not going to stop because I love this game. And it was friggin' amazing.
So I have to ask because not many people know this, but apparently, because I never played the English versions, apparently up until Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, they gave Western players a 50 defense boost from default because they felt that Western players who are crazy good at the game it would be too hard for them. So they put that in there. So apparently, when you played 3 Ultimate or Freedom Unite, you had more defense than we would have had here.
Than the
Did you
Japanese
feel that the game got harder when you went to 4U, or was it by that point? I imagine you already knew how to play the game, so you didn't notice a difference.
No, I didn't notice much of a difference. As a matter of fact, I almost, because of the fact that when I stopped playing 3 Ultimate, I didn't even get the G rank in 3 Ultimate, but the monsters that I was fighting in 3 Ultimate, I remember were kind of like above my league already. Like I should have crafted better armor and whatnot. Because when
Yeah.
you're a new player, you don't know like what the stopping points are, right? You don't know, okay, when should I stop and craft armor? When's it a good time? Like it's not every monster. And like, you also you also don't know exactly which monsters give what skills and what skills do I have. At that point, I didn't even know like what is artillery. Like I would play Gunlance, I would not have artillery. I don't know what artillery is.
Well, the game doesn't explain it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I would just try to stack up some stats that would actually I don't even know if I was stacking stats or if I would just like build full sets. I think I built full sets. Like I built I think I built a full Rurikhan set, which interestingly enough, I think
wow.
it probably wouldn't be that bad for a Gunlance because it's got some block on it and whatnot. But I think that's what I did. I just built an Rurikhan set. And it's funny because the friend of mine that was playing with me was playing Bow, and he also built an Rurikhan set. So thinking back on that, I'm pretty
But
sure
you got an Aragon bow user. Wow.
So thinking back on that, that was probably not the best idea. But that's the way that we were playing because the skill system was complicated and whatnot, right? I didn't know what I was doing. So for you didn't feel particularly hard. I'm pretty sure I finished for you with Tetsukabra. Like I just did the Tetsukabra set because at the start I was using Charge Blade and then eventually I swapped to Insect Glaive. And Charge Blade was actually pretty decent with Tetsukabra because it had that weird skill auto block. Like it had a skill that would automatically block for you. Do you remember that?
I did not know that. I mean, I know that there was that skill back in.
I think for you had.
I want to say auto block was in 3 Ultimate. I know there was an armor skill for that.
It might have been.
That was a bad crush for me. That hurt me actually using that. It helped me like really at the first, but then I ended up not knowing the actual timing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking off the training, it's like Evasion 3. Like once you get used to that, you can't go down to Evasion 1. The training wheels are just hurt.
So good. I've been playing with when I started playing with that in Monster Hunter World, I was like, dude, this is so good. Like, as a matter of fact, I think my SNS set that I've made with Fatalis' armor has evade window 5. Like, just to add insult to injury, it's got all of the evasion and all the offensive skills and all of that stuff. It's friggin' amazing. Like, yeah. But it's interesting that they made the game easier in the West. I was not aware of this until you had told me last time. The fact that they made the game easier in the West for 3G, because now we have these situations in World and in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, where like when they brought in Alatreon and the game gets review bombed on Steam because people were frustrated because they couldn't beat Alatreon, right? And I was just like, what are you doing? Like, this is literally one of the most consumer-friendly games that I've played in like the last decade or so. And you guys are review bombing it because you can't beat a monster. Like,
review bombing is such a stupid thing anyways. It's like, wait a second, you got all the way to Alatreon, which means you've enjoyed this game probably more than most games out there will give you.
Oh, yeah.
And now you're going to say that your overall opinion is now soured because of a monster?
And dude, Alatreon to me was one of those trials by fire, because Alatreon is one of those monsters that you can't really go with shelling in the Gunlance. But I was so stubborn. Like, you know how I killed Alatreon?
How did you kill him?
My first Alatreon solo kill, because I got so frustrated that I just got into a group and eventually we killed it in a 4-man. Like, I wasn't getting carried, but there was a 4-man the first time that I killed him. And then eventually I was like, I'm going to stay in here because this monster is scaled. Like, we knew that he was scaled for one player. And I'm going to stay in here. And I think I played the game for about 13 hours before I beat him. And the weapon that I beat him with was Slap Lance. We're using Kolv Taroth's Slap Lance. Because like I was so familiar with the moveset of the Gunlance, right? That it just felt natural to, I was able to dodge most of his attacks because he's got pretty good tells. So if you have experience with a weapon, you're able to dodge most of the stuff just fine. And I beat him with the Slap Lance, and I was like, hell yeah, dude. And that's when I also found out that the Gunlance actually has a really beast modifier for elemental damage on that fight. Like, I could trigger, if I really pushed, I could trigger like 3, the elemental
flinches,
things that he flinches. I could get 3 of those. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you slapped him around eventually?
Oh yeah, I eventually
after
slapped
being
him
slapped around for 13 hours.
But it's one of those things. Like, those are exactly the type of fights that I look for. Like, even Extreme Behemoth in World, right? How'd you like Extreme Behemoth? Did you fight Extreme Behemoth?
See, this will upset people. I don't think I ever hunted it. I did Behemoth.
You did the regular Behemoth.
That was weird for me because I don't do MMOs. So the whole concept of rage or whatever it was confusing to me.
Enmity.
But I played it and we beat it, and I had mixed feelings. And I don't think I even tried Extreme Behemoth. And I imagine people are probably going, "What the heck, dude?" Like,
dude, I think you actually saved yourself a lot of headaches, because like Extreme Behemoth was insane. Like, those tornadoes that regular Behemoth did. Extreme Behemoth would just spam that. You would fill the whole area.
Sounds like a Lunastra level type of monster. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember because I have a very good friend that plays with me. And he likes to play, at the time he liked to play aerial insect glaive, right? And, the most effective insect glaive is ground glaive and all of that. But he liked to play aerial, and it's whatever. I actually had to tell him, you have to pick another weapon. I'm sorry. Because we had to organize things in a way where people could see the marking of the tornado and they would have to move away so that we would have space to fight. And if you were in the air, you couldn't see the mark. So I was like, you got to pick a different weapon. I'm sorry. So it was that level of monster.
I'm feeling pretty good about my decision not to fight him now.
Yeah, it was.
That doesn't sound very fun.
It was really, really insane.
The hunts like that with all the tornadoes and everything. I'm actually really not good at crowd management, which you are probably good at it because you do Souls games, and I'm getting better at it. But when there's multiple targets, it's so much harder for me.
Oh man, like we actually had this thing which we would do on my stream, but mostly for World, like not in the older games, because in the older games monsters don't really interact with each other that much. So whenever you have 2 of them, it's just a big mess. It's just a big mess.
Yeah.
But in World, because of the fact that they damage each other, I mean, I think they also damage each other in the older games, but up to a much less degree. But in World,
Yeah.
they damage each other and flinch each other and have turf wars. So we would never use dung pods, and we would always go for killing instead of actually capturing. That was kind of
And I
like
remember
an unwritten rule, and that actually made the game a lot more fun for us because it would always be like weird things happening whenever there were two monsters in play, or sometimes
yeah.
even three monsters all convene into one location. It's just one big chaos. It was so much
I mean,
fun.
I remember, you'd paintball both monsters back in the day, and then you'd run out of the area, and you just watch as the two little pink dots just go back and forth, and then one leaves, and you're like, yes, and then you see the other one follow it, and you're like, oh, come on. And then by time they actually split up, one of their paintballs went away, and you had no idea where he went, and then you spent all your time looking for the monster, and then you find it, in comes the other one again, and you're just like, you know what, I give up. This is.
Oh man, most of the players that started with World are probably thinking paintballs. What the hell are they talking about? Yes,
I know. Well, you got to paintball a monster.
back in the day, we had to paint monsters so that we could figure out where they were. Or you also had the airship, and you could like wave to the airship, and they would tell
but you can only do
where
that
it
once a
was.
hunt, though.
Yeah, that was
Only
a
once.
one-time thing, but it was still cool to have that.
The good old days, man. Oh, I love it.
So I'm curious about one more thing in regards to World. What are your thoughts on the clutch claw?
So I never touched the clutch claw all the way through pretty much beating Iceborne. It felt weird for me. Like I could never judge the distance right, and I didn't feel too necessary. But I get why people are split on it. Like I think it's a cool idea, but I think they did make it a little too integral to the hunt, and I think that it feels like they balance the game slightly around the idea that they expect players to use it. And that I can imagine at that point it does feel kind of scripted. You're like, okay, I go on the hunt, and the first thing I'm going to do is tenderize this part. I'm going to tenderize this part. Going to wall bang him every time he goes from red to yellow. Okay, let's go for the bang. Oh, he's exhausted. Someone clutch on him, and it just starts taking over the free feel of the hunt, and starts to feel more scripted. And some people like that because it gives them rails in which to move on, right? And it's like there's a script to go to. But for most people, I think it's like, don't tell me how to hunt. And I think that annoyed a lot of people. So, I'm okay with it being only in Iceborne. I think it was an interesting defining characteristic, and I think they had some ideas there that they can explore later, but I don't think I would want to see it back as is, just for those reasons alone. Things like should be optional, right? Like they shouldn't feel like you're purposely ignoring something fundamental to the hunt, like sharpening your weapon, right? Like, well, if you don't want to sharpen, well, you have to sharpen. Like you're doing a heck of a lot less damage. It feels the same to me, and I just would rather not have to worry about that.
I kind of agree. Like I remember when Iceborne started, I was super excited about the potential of the clutch claw, particularly because at the time I was like in a sword and shield high. So I was just like, oh man, I'm going to be able to like roll and then do this clutch claw uppercut. It's going to be so cool. And then when Iceborne came out, I was like, the clutch claw uppercut is basically useless. It's terrible. You can basically just aim the clutch claw and shoot it until they eventually, like much later, they introduced something. I'm not sure if you know or not, but like if you do the uppercut, the first attack that you do instantly tenderizes if you attack from the uppercut. So they made it a little bit more useful, but it still felt very clunky. And it's like, again, at the start of Iceborne, it was really fun to basically jump on a monster's face and bang him against the wall, or even better, bang him against another monster. That felt even way cooler. Particularly if you got like a part break or something, right? If you happen to get a part break when you're doing that, like, yeah, broke his head against another monster. It feels good. But then eventually as you continue to play and you play more, and like by the time, a couple of months ago, I was just like, yeah, I'm done with the clutch claw. Like it really does feel, it's like, I guess I felt less the impact of it because I was playing Gunlance. So tenderizing is not really a big deal for me because I'm doing a lot of shelling damage. But eventually when I started needing to actually tenderize, I was like, yeah, this is not great. But then
it's not just that. It's like knocking over a monster used to be like a moment during the
Yeah.
hunt. Like, oh my God, he got the mount. Everyone sharpen up, get ready. Like, we're going to get the tail. Like, it was a thing. And it was a special thing. Now it's like knocking over a monster. You do it like a dozen times or 2 dozen times during the hunt. It's no
Yeah.
big deal.
I,
And
I,
it feels like the hunters got too powerful because of it.
I never even thought about it like that, but yeah, back in the older games, whenever you knocked down a monster, it was like, oh man, this is a big opening. Let's do
Chance.
something.
Go.
Chance to this.
And then, well, it's, and then also like combine that with the mantles, and it just became easy mode. Like you can
Yeah.
literally just ride on a Rathalos like a pony at this point. It's like the breath attacks can't hurt you. If it's not a rage, you can swipe it left and right, throw it into walls. You could play around and do whatever the heck you want with it. That feels, I mean, it's enjoyable in like the sandbox type of like it's God mode. I'm just going to go
Yeah.
around destroying stuff. But I don't know. It just, I wasn't a huge fan.
That's how I was saying. Like, it felt like you got to a point where like the power just escalated a little bit out of control. And talking about power, do you feel like you had more armor options in the previous Monster Hunter games? Like in terms of like choices of skills that you would want, like not just in terms of the quantity of armor and weapons, because this has been like a contention point that I have with my community.
Yeah.
Where, for instance, right, in Monster Hunter World, Behemoth comes out. You get the Behemoth armor. I think it was the Drachen set. And the Drachen set comes out, and it's basically meta for just about everything. And it pretty much makes all of the other sets kind of like obsolete. Like you would see everyone that would use a set would be either like, I don't remember if it was 4-piece Drachen and something else or 3-piece or whatever, but it was like, it was Drachen and 2 pieces of something else that you would want. And I feel like in the other games, like there were much more choices. Now there was also more armor, but there's a little bit more variety in the type of things that you can bring to a hunt, right?
Yeah, I think World, everything became stacking in attack power and anything else was just optional.
Yeah.
And it just became kind of like, when you have that many multipliers, it just gets kind of ridiculous. That and, I'm split on this. Like, I agree the old armor system was too complicated. Most people didn't get into it. But one of the cool side effects that it had was like an armor piece from a monster mid-game would still be viable late game because it had, it was a combination of that with other pieces, right? Mixing sets was much more interesting back when. And it just, I don't know, it's like when you make a set in the older games, it always came with skills that you didn't purposely put on there that you didn't want. But what it ended up doing was you got to experience using skills that you normally wouldn't have put on. And then you're like, I like this skill. This is really neat. Like some people have never used fast sharpen, but there were so many sets that had a piece that had it that, you just naturally said, oh, why am I sharpening so fast? Oh, this monster has it. And you become a fan of new skills. So I like the variety more. And then I don't think they quite nailed it when it came to like the set bonuses. Like you've got like set bonuses that become a decoration later on in the game, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the Odogaron set is like pointless.
Because you get a
It looks awesome. You just get a polished deco, and it's like you've just literally it's a decoration slot game at that point. How many deco slots does it have? What's its base defense? Yeah, it's trash.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
it's like most of the armor, you're only using it for the slots. You're not using it for the skills that it has, and I didn't like that.
Yeah, and it's like that was made to me apparent with the Fatalis set, which a lot of people give me crap because I said, look, this set is just too powerful. And the reason I say it's too powerful, it's not because I want it to be nerfed or anything like that. It's because I would like there to be other choices of sets that you could use that would compare to the power of that. And I just feel like, it's always been one of those things where it's like, okay, new monster comes out, here's the best set. New monster comes out, here's another best set again. There was a couple of exceptions, like maybe Arch-Tempered Namiel. I don't remember it being that great. There was one piece in there that was really good for me, which was the belt. Came with like 3 evade extender, and I was like, oh great, this is fantastic for Gunlance. But I do like what they did more with the older game, which is kind of like why I'm excited for Rise, because it seems like they said something to Eric's. I seem to remember that this was a while ago, but I remember that Eric's had like an interview or something, and they had told him that it was not going to be like the skill system is not going to be like Monster Hunter World, but it was also not going to be like the old one. It was going to be
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of a mixture of both or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to find out what they're doing.
Yeah, because
Like we have no idea at this point.
at this point, everything when it comes to Rise just feels speculation, with the exception of some of the stuff that we've already seen. Like, what has you most excited about Rise right now, besides the fact that it's on the Switch? Because I know that you've been wanting one for the Switch so that you can go to your commute and stuff, and you don't have to worry
Yeah.
about, because you don't have that much time to be at home and whatnot. So yeah.
I don't know if you've seen my like bingo card. It was like it's a wish list of stuff I came up with before they even announced that there was going to be a new game.
I've seen some
And
of it.
it's just like clicking every single box for me. It's like everything that I've want so far. I got to keep my expectations in check because I'm right at this point. It could be like angels coming down, and I would be like, "Whoa, it's okay." Like my expectations are through the roof. But I'm so happy and delighted to see all these cute posts by the team, like of all the animals.
Yeah, they're
The
doing
focus
so
on all the
much.
animals. It's like that's that's what the portable team does is they focus on the cats, and now they're doing the dogs and the owls and the endemic life, and it's that cute world building tone that I just adore. Like the action itself is pretty just straight on, but the way that they're presenting it, it's like, remember like Cha Cha and Kayamba, right? Like
Oh my god,
that stuff was
dude.
goofy as heck, right?
I
well, that
love-
wasn't
like-
the portable team, but like
I'm
I
the guy
miss
that
that.
constantly says, like, why can't they just bring Cha-Cha and Kayamba back? Like, I like Cha-Cha and Kayamba so much more than the felines. And everybody's always like, no, you're wrong. And I was like, no, dude, Cha-Cha was awesome, and he would do his little dance and whatnot. And it's like, again, when I played the game at that time, I didn't even know what I was doing, right? But Cha-Cha and Kayamba were so iconic to me. Like, I loved the little dudes. They're awesome.
yeah. I mean, World and Iceborne have its cuteness, and like the Grimalkins are awesome, but like you know what I mean? Like it's the way they present it. It feels more goofy and less serious, and I
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So
I like the goofiness of the older games as well. Like one of the things that I really liked, and for you, for instance, was trying to min max the palicos and the little mini game that you had with the palicos where they would go out
yeah.
and hunt for you. I liked that mini game. That mini game was a lot of fun.
But I think Rise, I'm looking forward to just using the wire bugs and just zipping around the maps and getting really good at doing that. Like the movement seems really fun.
The wire
They mentioned
bugs,
that there was going to.
go ahead.
No, sorry. I was. They did mention like they're going to have not only the expeditions, but they said that there's going to be some quests in which there's no time limit, so that you can just have fun in the world. You don't have to worry about time limits, and you can just collect stuff. And
So
that I think is
almost
great.
like you do in the Guiding Lands, essentially.
It's weird because they said in a Japanese interview there's going to be expeditions, but then in another interview they said there's going to be quests specifically that don't have a timer. So it's almost like expeditions don't have objectives, right? You just go in and free hunt.
You just go in and do whatever you want.
So it sounds like they're going to have special quests in which there is an objective, but there's not going to be a timer. So I don't know what that's going to be, but I'm looking forward to just, I don't know, making it my playground, getting really good at running around the map and just jumping around like an idiot. It's going to be fun.
The cool thing about the cool thing about the wire bug is that whereas the clutch claw, it attaches you onto the monster, and there's a lot of limitations when it comes to that, because if you're trying to attach the monster's in rage, you can't do anything. Or if the monster is moving too fast, a lot of times you're trying to attach and you're getting knocked off constantly. It can be very frustrating. The fact that the wire bug doesn't actually do anything to the monster and it's completely independent, I think it's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at it differently, what it really is just doing is it's applying a cooldown to your special moves. That's basically what it's doing. People always see it like as an enabler, like with it, now I can do this and all that. It's like, no, it just means that I can't spam it anymore. There's like a mechanic behind her. So, and they've mentioned in interviews that they're balancing the game so that if you don't want to actually use the wire bugs, you don't have to. Like, you don't have to interact with it. They're not going to make it that integral.
I wasn't aware of that, but that is really cool because, that's one of the main complaints of the clutch claw is that people are like, they feel like they need to use it. And if it is more of an optional type of thing, then I think that is way, way cooler.
Yeah, so they mentioned that specifically. So I thought that was interesting. And, part of the way of managing that power is the fact that they said there's not going to be any armor skills that will affect wire bugs in any way whatsoever.
Yes, I'm very happy about that because I was like, dude, any skill that adds anything to wire bugs is pretty much going to be a
it will just
mandatory thing. Like everybody's going to want to
exactly
have
yeah.
that. But
So I mean, they even said like you don't even have to use the dogs, right? If you don't want to use a palamute, you could just use a wire bug and jump over a cliff and get to the other side just as fast. So you always have choices, and that's the whole idea is that you have choice.
oh, but I definitely want to have like a palamute and a palico. I'm gonna have one of each so that I can ride around because like it's the dream,
But
right?
what
'Cause
will you bring online?
what will I bring
If you can only
online?
bring one online, which one will you bring?
I guess it depends
I'm
on,
bringing a
on
cat.
who I'm.
I gotta bring the cat.
You're bringing a cat?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I guess it would depend.
I'll
on
be the one
who-
guy.
It would depend on who I'm hunting with. I feel like because like if I see that we could probably use a palico for some reason, then sure I'd bring a palico. But you know, by default, I think I'd rather bring the palamute for the speed because I mean it's kind of like the dream. You have the Jagras Raiders right now, but you don't really have control. Not to mention that the Jagras Raiders sometimes are annoying because like you want to mount them and then you want to open up the map, but they got to do their little rebel act of like,
Yeah.
and only then you get to open up the map. So being able to actually control them and roam around the map, I'm very curious to see what that's going to be like.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much mayhem it's going to be with 8 different characters attacking a monster at one time.
That's right, because even with 4 players, everyone's going to be able to bring at least
yeah.
one pet.
So if you want 4 hunters and 4 dogs, it's gonna be, and someone asked it recently in a Japanese interview. They asked, so is there going to be like 8 characters attacking the monster? And they're like, uh-huh. And they're like, you know, I think the monsters are going to be smart enough to deal with a lot of the stuff. They said that, you know, the monsters in general will target players more often than the companions, but they'll still smack them around.
Yeah, because there's always that thing where the companions, like sometimes they'll take a pretty heavy hit and they're like, oh, I gotta go take a cat nap or something like that, right? So I think the dogs, it's gonna be the same thing. They'll probably have to exit the field if they take a little bit too much damage. So I think it will be manageable to be able to control it. Having said that, I do hope that it doesn't get to the level that we had in World, where it's like you get 4 hunters on a monster, you slap him down,
abuse.
and it's just like he barely gets to do anything. The poor creature.
Yeah, there's so much more we don't know about Rise, and I'm excited to know. Like we haven't really seen the town. We don't know what type of stuff there's gonna be. We don't know what type of mini games there might be. We don't even know what the rampage system is. We don't know what the mounting system is because they said it's gonna be different. We don't know the armor system.
Yeah, that's right. They haven't shown the mounting system at all. At all.
Yeah,
we haven't seen a single mount.
They said there's going to be mounting, but they said it's going to be different. It's not the traditional mounting system. Which, of course, because everyone's going to be using wire bugs to do aerial attacks, so it's not going to be that easy, right? It makes me wonder whether or not it's going to be... At first, I thought, okay, maybe they'll just make it where you only do aerial mounting damage if you do an aerial attack using a wire bug, like a silkbind attack. But they said that you don't have to use these things to play the game, so that would feel too integral.
Yeah.
And that really doesn't change the system. It just changes how you mount them. So I think what they have is going to be really different. We just don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't even speculate. I have no idea how they could change the system. So
I mean, if you can't even speculate on it, and
I mean, there's just no clues, right?
Yeah.
Like usually there's a clue or a hint, but I have nothing to go on.
because like
here.
when you look at systems, particularly like you've played Dragon's Dogma. I mean, they can't do a Dragon's Dogma type system because that's just like that wouldn't make any sense. Oh yeah, I'll just cling on to the monster now and just like stab it a little bit and have like a special. Like I don't think they're gonna go that route. I don't think that would make a lot of sense for something like Monster Hunter. So I'm also very curious because the thing about it is like mounting in general has become kind of like a static thing, right? You just kind of mount and then you just do pretty much whatever you want. And unless it's a really tough monster, like I think Alatraon, Fatalis, and Shara are maybe some of the toughest mounts that you have.
Yeah.
Unless it's something like that, like the down is always guaranteed when you mount. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to interact with it. Hopefully the monster will actually defend itself and try to like knock you off instead of just like slamming into a wall like a dummy, like it's doing now in World. Like so, a lot of times you get onto a monster's face and it's just like, I'm just gonna slam into this wall real fast and you'll see.
You know, it's actually AI makes me think that people really need to tailor their expectations about how big the roster is going to be for this game, because they're actually going through and changing the AI for all the monsters so that one, you can't spam them. Two, they know if you're in the air, they can aim for you now and hit you.
Yeah, they have
So
to
it's
be
like
able
if
to
they're
give
doing
them
that,
attacks.
like if they're doing that much reworking, then it's going to take time for them to implement all the monsters. So I actually am not expecting a huge roster because I feel that the changes to the environment are big enough that they can't just slap in old monsters like they did with Generations Ultimate, which you could feel in Ultimate. Like some of those monsters were not tuned for that game, and they were just, you know, you just beat on them.
Yeah. And some fights in Generations Ultimate were also not super interesting. Like I remember when they initially announced Fatalis for Iceborne, I went and I played against Fatalis in GU, and I was like, wow, this
It's
fight,
so boring.
this fight is terrible. It's really boring.
It's always been like one of the most boring hunts in the game. So I'm so happy they made it menacing.
They completely remade that fight, and they actually made it really great.
One of the things I want to ask you though, like, what is it about Monster Hunter Rise that you're most looking forward to at this point?
I mean, for starters, it's like due to how much I've played World, because like I have 2,600 hours on World right now,
my
and that's just on the PlayStation 4 version, right? Because I also played it on the PC. I have like 200 plus hours on there as well. So I have a lot of hours in World, and I'm kind of like, you know, some of the systems, like some of the limitations of the Gunlance, for instance, like I said, with the Wormstake Blast, the thing about the Clutch Claw. I just kind of want to, you know, see something fresh. That's like my biggest thing. And then the other thing is having it on the Switch, because I know that this is kind of like contention point with a lot of people in the community, but I wanted to have one on the Switch so that I could play it on the go, right? And the good thing about the Switch, you can play it on the go, you can play it on the big screen when you're home. So there's really no compromise there. That's one of the biggest reasons why I never got too much into the portable ones, is because you'd have to look at the 3DS screen when you're home in front of the big screen TV, right? So I've been wanting to see a new one there to kind of just, you know, see what they can do in that console, in the portable, and to just go back to a bit more of the old school style of Monster Hunter. Not full old school, but like to see what they can do now, to see what that portable team is up to. Because at the end of the day, I did make a video a while back where I was like, you know, I liked 4U more than I liked Generations, because I got bored of like every time I picked up a new weapon, I'd have to learn, oh God, no, do I want guild style? Do I want Valor style?
Oh, yeah, the styles, the art.
And learning all of that stuff. But eventually when I really got into GU, when it came on the Switch and I really got into it, I was like, oh no, I fully understand how this stuff works now, and it's fine. And I love, for instance, I love doing Striker. I love doing Valor. Like those are the styles that I really tend to gel well with. Interestingly enough, the one that I've played the most is Alchemy recently. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I made Alchemy Gunlance.
Alchemy Gunlance.
It is so fun.
That almost sounds like it deserves a video.
Dude, it is. I made a video on that build. Like it is so much fun because you get 3 arts, you get items that charge up your arts faster, because that's my favorite thing. I love doing arts, right? Unfortunately, they're not super powerful on the Gunlance, so this is not a build that you can go in solo G rank with.
They are fun though.
But it's like if you get in the group, like you're not going to be holding anyone back with the build that I made. Like I grabbed, what's his name? The variant of Glavenus, crap, I forget his name all of a sudden. Hellblade. I got Hellblade Glavenus's Gunlance, which comes with blast, sharpness. I don't remember if it has max level shelling or not. I think it does. So you have all of that, and then basically I put Composed, which increases your alchemy speed charge as well as your arts gauge charge. And then I put artillery, and then I put favor, which is whenever I use that, people are like, why is it that he dodges twice when he does absolute evasion? Because I have favor. So there's so many things that you do with it. And then it's just like you spam skills all the time, and you're constantly charging everyone's SP gauge.
It's like a whole different tool set, right?
It is. It's amazing, dude. I love it.
That sounds really neat.
It is.
Alchemy Gunlance.
Alchemy Gun. I never would have thought it, but like a friend of mine was doing like Alchemy Charge Blade, and he was teaching me how to do alchemy, and I was like, oh, I can do that in the Gunlance. And then I started learning the move set. And there's also a move that you can do that like you dodge and then you draw your barrel from a dodge.
Yeah.
You draw the alchemy barrel.
Exactly. You just start shaking it up like a bartender.
It's so
Shake
cool.
it up.
I love that. It's fantastic. So yeah, that's actually my favorite build that I've ever done in GU. The only thing is that you can't really do really hard level content solo with that build. And then you hear of people like you like going out and there's like, oh yeah, I solo everything with a Palico. And I'm just like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. It's like my last run through of GU was really fun. I did a Palico only or Prowler only run. And I mean, G rank at that point, I think most monsters were gone within 10 to 12 minutes. It was the standard time.
Jesus. That is
I think
so
when you,
fast.
I think I just got so used to playing them because I've played them for so many hundred hours that I'm so good at judging distance that I could just boomerang and smack them around and not have to worry about getting hit.
Yeah, I never got too good at Palicos in GU. Not even like min-maxing them. Like I must have watched your Palico guide video probably like 50 times and I still don't know how to do the damn thing properly.
Yeah, they're an acquired taste. I think they're slippery. They feel a little weird.
But I did make some decent ones. Like I made a good healer one using some of the stuff that I learned from your video, and then I made a trapper one as well. And so I would have the heals and the traps, and they would help out a lot in the hunt. So I could solo G rank pretty effectively, but not with the build that I like playing. Unfortunately, I would have to go for like the really hard hitting gun lances because unfortunately shelling in GU is terrible. It's so bad. It makes me really sad.
Yeah. But I gotta say, I mean, that's the thing I love most about the Monster Hunter team is even if they have something good like Prowlers or, I mean, Like It or Lump It, Clutch Claw and stuff like that, the team seems so interested in doing something new every time that they're not afraid to just say, okay, that's what we did then. We just want to do something. We don't want to make the same game twice. We want to do something new. So they're always willing to experiment and figure out new things. And then, you know, some are hit or miss, some are real hits, and they become fundamental changes that the series takes. I just love that mentality.
I completely agree. Like, because I actually prefer it that way. Like, I like having a new game to look forward to, as opposed to basically it being kind of like the same game. And then it's like, oh, we're just going to add more monsters. Because that's actually what people were kind of asking for. They were like, oh, we're going to get the Fireborn expansion. And I'm just like, no, you're not. This is not a live service game. Like, forget about your Fireborn dreams. That's not going to happen. Because people are so used to it now, right? They're like, oh yeah, because we have Destiny 2 and then there's like 50 expansions on that. We have this other game, there's like 50 more expansions on that, right? And I think that it's better that way when there's a new game and they can just like, you know, try something completely different. Like without having that type of mentality, we would have never gotten Monster Hunter World. They would have kept it going the way that it's been going forever.
So I love it. I think here's a fun, stupid fact I just looked up when you mentioned it, but you said you had like 2,600 hours in Monster Hunter World?
Yes.
There's less than 2,600 hours until Monster Hunter Rise.
Oh my God.
There's about 2,500 hours until Rise.
You've been so hyped about that game that you're literally counting down the hours. That's so amazing. Oh my God.
I'm an addict. Oh my gosh. Just wait until we get to like 30 days out. You'll start seeing, I don't know if you've followed my Twitter in the past games, but I come up with really stupid facts like 29 days until this. What the number 29 is actually also, and I come up with like fun trivia for every single day up until release.
Oh man, that's gonna like I'm super pumped for March. Like I can't wait to jump into it because like jumping into World has really been pretty much unlike anything that I've done before. You know. It's like everyone's played games before, but the way that I jumped into World and the way that the game just kind of like clicked with me, like it never really happened before. Personally, it was insane. Like it's just like it's one of those things where I play a lot of RPGs, right? And you just have that thing where it's like, oh, this whole thing is random, and whether or not you get your loot is random. Like even now I'm playing World of Warcraft and it's like you go do a dungeon and whether or not you get one of the pieces that you want is completely random. It's completely up to chance. Like you can influence where the item is, but then you also have to be super lucky. And in Monster Hunter, it feels like, no, I want the fire sword. I'm going to go kill Rathalos, and I'm going to get the materials for the fire sword. And I might not get it on this hunt, but I'm probably going to get it on the next one or on the next one. And it's never one of those things of, oh, no, it's completely RNG. You're never going to get it. I mean, although there are some
I mean,
people,
what I like is, and they're fixing this for World because, you know, they're fixing it for Rise because there was these slap-on designs that they also had. But what I love is that you can physically see in the design of the weapon the materials that you had been trying to get. So, like, if they're trying to make you to get, like, the tail of a Glavenus, you're going to see it in the weapon design when you make it. So it's like, it wasn't just some arbitrary, like, oh, you need to find, you know, item SRR52. It's like,
exactly.
No, I feel like the game was actually telling me I needed it because I needed it. And then it literally becomes the trophy in your hands at that point, you know?
Yeah, that's one of the things that they kind of failed a little bit in World was when you had those weapons that were bits on sticks, right?
Yeah,
it's
it's just a shame because the rest of the weapons were designed really nicely, so it just stood out.
like when you see the chicken drumsticks from Brachydios, you're just
gosh.
what? Oh my god!
Don't remind me.
I would actually do like these reveals for like not reveals but like reviews for every single weapon whenever I would get to a new tier. Like I would kill Glavenus and then in the
Some
stream
tears were shed when you got to Brachydios.
yeah, because like what in the stream itself, it was always this moment when I would go to the forge and actually see the armor and the weapon.
Oh,
and when I got to the Gunlance of Glavenus, I was like, what the hell is this trash? And then I get to Brachydios. What is this trash? It's like the Glavenus one, but it's green instead of red. It's so bad. Yeah.
Unfortunate decisions were made, but luckily we can move on. They said they're not going to do that this time, so that's good.
Yeah. Weapon designs aside, with all of the new monsters, like, was there any of them that kind of like stood out to you in Iceborne or in Monster Hunter World?
I mean, besides the obvious ones we talked about, I like Vitalis was just amazing. Like how they transformed it from a boring hunt into one of the more exciting hunts ever. That was just fantastic. And
but
as polarizing as it was, I was
talking specifically about the new ones, like, you know, the new monsters. Yeah, the ones that came with World or with Iceborne that were not in the older games.
You know, I feel really bad to say this, but I know everyone loves Dodo Gamma.
Oh, I don't care about
I'm not a fan of that monster at all.
I don't care about Dodo Gamma.
So I've donated money just to see like Triceps. He was streaming just to make him kill the monster.
So instead of capturing Dodo Gamma, you're like, no, you kill it.
I said I will donate if you kill it, and
and his whole chat just like turns against. He's like, oh no, you
hilarious.
Monster!
Yeah, it was really funny.
Like I kill every
the most
monster,
memorable. I was gonna say the most memorable has to be Basil, just because we didn't see it coming.
Oh my
God. Literally didn't see it coming. Like, because they didn't talk about it in marketing, which I'm really happy about. Because they usually spill the beans on everything. And it just, when you first hear it, you're hunting and you're like, what the hell was that? And then all of a sudden, it's like Christmas present from above. Oh, like I love it.
I have a story with Basil that is like, I actually recently made a video saying my favorite monster, and it's Seething Basil Goose. It's not the original Basil. It's the seething version, because I feel like the seething fight is a little bit more refined and it's got more explosions. Like one of the main reasons I like Gunlance so much is because it has explosions.
The spectacle, yeah.
Yeah, I like the spectacle, the explosions. So the Basil Goose, it was like I think I was hunting something. I think it was an Odogaron or something in Rotten Vale, and I was hunting it, and suddenly a Basil Goose showed up. I was live streaming this. A Basil Goose shows up. I don't think it was the first time that I had seen it, because I had seen it a couple of times. But this one was one of those that was really obnoxious. And I have that rule that I don't use dung pods. So it's like every time the doggo moved, out came Basil right after him, bam, bam. And then one time I was like, okay, that's it. You're getting it. And I spent like so many resources, because at that time I didn't have that many resources like potions and whatnot. And I'm just like, dude. And I spent all those resources and then carded 3 times and lost the quest. but I loved every minute of it. So Basil
And
is
somewhere
hands
the
down.
Basil is chuckling, going, noob.
Yeah, exactly. Like so Basil is hands down like my favorite monster that we've had in Monster Hunter, particularly in Monster Hunter World, particularly the seeding variant, like I was saying. And yeah, but another one that also has a really special place is God damn it, I say it has a special place and I almost forget its name.
It's so hard. There's so many monsters in our head that when we try to think about it, it's like you're pulling out. You can't find anything out of your head. It's like
It's like
what was in World?
I got the name here. It's cool. I think it's Kuliaku, right? The little chicken bird with the eggs.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
His little pet rock that he likes to chuck at your head.
Yeah, isn't that just like one of the coolest? Like particularly when if you chase him down to his lair and he picks up an egg and he starts like pecking at it and trying to eat the egg to like regen a little bit of health. I just thought it was so friggin' cool, dude. It was really,
It's fascinating though. We both have the exact same answer. When I try to think back of the most memorable monsters, those are the two that I was gonna say.
It's Basil and Kuliaku.
Yeah, because Kudu is just cute. And that's a cute monster, and it feels alive. Like it does things that are just goofy and just funny. And I just love how empowered he feels when he has a rock in his hand. He's like, I can take this guy. He starts charging you. And like,
dude, like I've been legit stunned on a lot of situations where a Kulu just kind of like hops into the thing and just like stuns you with his rock because that thing has so much like whatever impact damage probably that he does that he's probably running
like,
around.
Why am I
with
bouncing? What's happening? Oh.
Yeah, he's probably running around with like stun level 3 or something. KO, knockout.
What I like the most though is when you hit him and he fumbles and drops it. The animation for that is so cute.
Like that's
he tries so hard not to drop that rock. He's like, oh.
And like if you get him, there's a special zone where if you get him, where it's like it's in lava zones or something, and he picks up the rock, and the rock is like made out of
on fire,
like on fire, and then if he drops it, like he gets his face burnt as well. he gets his face a little bit singed from the rock. It's so
that's a monster. I wish they would have did like an extreme arc tempered Kuliaku. That would have been fun.
I mean, they kind of did though. You did that quest probably if you did Behemoth. The one where he picks up the crystal and he just gets like all big and stuff like. And then you get the chocobo music from Final Fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're really creative with some of these events. They're just so cool. Like do you remember when you had the event with the pigs, like the first New Year's event, where you had the one-shot moss swines?
Believe it or not, I still have not done that quest yet.
Oh my god!
I saw it, but at that time, I just for some reason I wasn't able to play. So I've never seen it, and it looked hilarious.
Like you can't even block it. You can't even block it. They'll go through the shield and kill you anyway. I remember the first time, because like you just go in there and you see a couple pigs and like, well, what's this? And then they just like trounce you and kill you in one hit, and you're like, what the hell is going on? Like I thought that was cool. The collab with Devil May Cry as well, I thought was really cool, and the design that they did for the weapons there, where the weapon kind of like extends cool. into the actual Devil May Cry weapons. It's so friggin' crazy. Which of the crossover events did you enjoy the most?
Crossover events. Oh, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, there's just so many of them. They did so freaking many of them.
Yeah, just my mind just draws blanks. I mean, it is the morning here, and I need more caffeine. But I mean, I do recall like I never did the ancient lesson, which everyone told me.
Oh, The
it's
Witcher.
A good thing that,
dude, The Witcher is.
But
like
I actually really enjoyed the first the collaboration quest. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
The Witcher collaboration quest.
And that's an isekai, I guess you could say.
Yeah, right? Pretty much. But the thing is, portals are established in Witcher's world, so I think it's kind of fair. They do have portals, and Geralt does have like a thing where he's like, "Oh, I hate portals. I can't stand portals." But
but that one I enjoyed.
That one was very interesting, the way that they did it. Like, I don't think they've ever done a collab like that before. Like, then again, the only other collabs that I've saw was like on on GU and whatnot besides the world ones. But yeah, the Witcher one was really special. Did you play it with
Because I mean,
voices?
he's like a hunter, right? Like he sees stuff and he comes up with assumptions about what came through where and when and stuff like that. So it felt really there was some shared DNA there. It felt right.
Exactly. And because like the whole thing about him is like he understands how the monsters came to be in his world, because there's like this whole
Yeah.
thing about how monsters appear in the Witcher's world. And so he's not always necessarily against the monsters. He tries to understand them so that he could like solve the problem that keeps them like attached to the world or whatever. And which is funny
Yeah.
because in order to really complete that quest, you have to like befriend the Puke, and then the Puke has to survive. And did you do all that, or did you just do the quest?
I can't remember, to be honest.
Did you see the
I remember having fond memories, but I can't, my brain is fuzzy on the details of it.
Yeah.
But I never did the ancient lesson. I heard that was a very annoying monster in the same way that Extreme Behemoth was. I've never faced it, so I don't know.
The thing that people complain about those two fights is that they're scaled for 4 players. You can't.
I see.
You didn't have like a single player scaled version of those fights, and that's where the problem lies.
Oh, that reminds me. I don't know if it was yesterday or today, but the single player scaled Safijiva should be out now.
Yeah. They've.
Have you tried it?
No, because I believe that patch came on the 6th at the same time as the Moss on a Movie collab, and Kolf to Roth is going to be active for 2 weeks, and then
so we
Safi
gotta
comes
wait.
around. So I think we have to wait unless they changed it all of a sudden. But like I remember that I checked it when they did the event, and Kolv was the one that was active, and they said they were going to be rotating it in 2 weeks or whatnot.
Yeah. Is Kolv scaled to single player as well already, or no?
The master rank version, yes, it was scaled from the beginning. You could solo it, but it's a little bit.
I want to see you.
it's
I want to see you
challenging.
slap Lance Safijiva. I'm curious how long that'll take.
Solo Slapland Safijiva.
Yeah,
I mean,
smack that dragon around.
that'll probably take a while, but the thing about it is I'm not going to get too many rewards for it because I'm probably not going to break a lot of things. Because the thing about the Gunlance is that I could crack his chest with shelling, which is one of the harder things to crack with other weapons unless he's in the final phase or whatever. But I'd be dealing damage to it since the start. Actually, I don't even remember if you could deal damage to it since the start. I would try. But now that I think of it, I think on PC they tested it and you actually couldn't do that. It's kind of weird. Did you do the
Roth is another. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Did you do the movie event?
I did not. I have not. I've been in this weird thing because I bought the new Xbox, and I've been in this like just frenzy of, oh, there's all these games I want to play, and so I'm playing all these random games, especially because I know that Rise is coming in March, so it's like I've got a window here, so I'm starving. I'm trying to play stuff, so I haven't touched World since.
You're
plan
just
to go
more
back and do
hyped
it.
for Rise. You're just more hyped for Rise. I understand. Like I'm super pumped for Rise as well. I did do the event, and I was a little bit disappointed with some of the aspects of it because, like, you know, they really play it up when you're in the game. They're like you're getting for starters. There's like a big icon right on the front of the screen telling you about this event. I think that's the first time they've done that. There's like a big square. And then you go in there, and then when you start picking up the quest, they're telling you all about this is a story quest, this is different, this is special, and so on. And don't forget to go watch the movie when you're done. And I was just like,
gosh.
okay. So because they're building it up so much, I'm like, I mean, they did the Witcher 3 collab, and that was really different and really special. So I go in there, you know, because they're building me up this much, and then I was like, oh, this is it, huh? Okay. I mean, basically, you
Was
kill
it just like a cutscene in a quest?
No, yeah. There's a cutscene and a quest, which basically what the cutscene reveals is like besides isekai, there's also some time travel in the movie apparently, because they talk about time travel in the cutscenes. So
I mean,
and it's like it's super easy. It's like there's it's a Black Diablos, but like you hit it 2 or 3 times in the face, breaks his horns instantly. So it's like,
oh wow, it's not even like they didn't go over the top with it.
oh no, not at all. And then they do a cutscene for that, and then you kill like the biggest Rathalos you've ever seen. But the AI is a little bit wonky on that Rathalos because he just kept like doing his slam. He'd like would go up, slam, up, slam. Like he did that 4 times in a row at one point, I think. And he also had like a strange.
Rathalos is like, "Where's the airplanes? I want airplanes to fly."
There's also like a strange thing about the clutch claw where when you clutched, you would like look to you. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like he would look to you, but not really do anything. I was like,
what are you doing?
And they just slam
Can
into
you
a wall.
can you
so
scratch my
big.
scale back there while you're up there?
So yeah, that particular event, I was a little bit disappointed by, because also the voice acting, it was not very good. It really felt like the lines were being phoned in or something. So I don't know what they were thinking with that. It was kind of weird.
Is that just another one of those cases where it's, actors are not voice actors? It's a different trade, so it's just like trying to do something that they just are not used to.
Yeah, I think that was probably what happened there. But yeah, we have reached that point where kind of like Iceborne is going into its maintenance mode, and we're all just kind of like super hyped up for Rise. I mean, I know I can't wait for it. I know that you can't wait for it. We've had some reactions from the community about that. A lot of people are like upset that the game is coming to the Switch, right? Did you get that feeling as well? Like I think I've seen some tweets from you where there were some people going like, oh, why can't it come to all platforms and whatnot? And
yeah, I mean, I guess I'll say that I understand the frustration. Like, of course, like in a perfect world, I think a Monster Hunter would be on everything, right?
yeah.
But in the same end, like you have to look at what the Monster Hunter team does, which is they pick a specific hardware and they go all out, right? They go, okay, this is our target case, or how they're going to play it. Like, look what they did for World and Iceborne. Like it or lump it, they were able to do something like live service. They were able to do events, rotations, much more multiplayer, 16-person hubs, socializing. Like, it was different. Right.
It was
and the only
very
reason why
different.
because it was on the consoles, like if they also made the exact same game for the Switch, they're not going to include all those systems because they know that not every player would be interacting with them. And not to mention, obviously, the Switch couldn't handle the game. It's just a device that fits in your pocket, for God's sake. It's like, I think, like, people say, okay, well, there's no reason why they can't just port a Switch game onto PS5 or Xbox. But then I'm like, but you guys in the same breath are complaining about the graphics, saying it looks like a PS2 game or it's a step back. So it's like, I think Capcom knows if you're going to put a game on a next generation console, it should look next generation, right?
Exactly.
It should look amazing. So they're not going to make a game, build it and design it and balance it around the idea of portable play, and then just lazily port it onto a home console. It won't even feel right. I think people want it, but they don't actually want it. If you put a portable game on a home console, it won't feel the same. And the fact is, the matter is, right now they're spending the time to work on probably the next big Monster Hunter, right? Like Monster Hunter 6, whatever.
That's one of the things that I've said. Like, I believe that probably I think even from the moment that they finished development on World, like potentially.
Oh yeah, Base World, they started work.
Even before, like they did, they started doing the whole support that they've done with all of the free content and whatnot. Even before that, they were already working on the next thing.
Oh,
That's
absolutely.
what I would imagine.
Yeah, that's how they always do it. Like they said that even for Generations and Generations Ultimate, they took the core team from Generations and they started working on Rise when they started working on Generations Ultimate. So they started on Rise at the same time they started on World. Like those two that were started development at the same time. So they've been working on the game for like over 4 years. So it just, the way they do it is, like you said, after they finish Base World, take a break, get core members, put them on the next big game, let the other members run both the Operations and Iceborne. And it's great. So you have like sort of sub-teams working on different stuff, because game production, you don't just start out with like 200 people working on a project. It's smaller. It's a few programmers, a few artists, and a producer and director, and they're experimenting and doing stuff. They said that Monster Hunter Rise was originally, their prototypes was on the 3DS because the Switch wasn't even out.
Jesus Christ.
It's not that they were going to release it on the 3DS, but they just needed hardware to test it on. So that's what they had it on, because the goal from the beginning was, Yozo told them, I want a portable Monster Hunter game. And he told them at the exact same time they started working on World. So they knew that they were going to do 2 lines of Monster Hunter, right? So to look at one of those and say it shouldn't exist or I'm unhappy that it exists, it's like, what are you talking about? They've got the main console games and they've got the portable games. We got everything. Like, what more do you want? Like, canceling a portable game will not give you one more console game. Like, I don't understand the logic.
It's
there.
not like you can grab the team that is working on Rise and like, okay, put all of the team into this game and somehow the game comes out faster.
Faster, yeah, exactly right.
What
you
do
can
mean?
throw a million people at it.
We can't just throw more money and more people at this thing and it won't solve it. Won't it go faster? No, it's not going to go.
I call it the pizza problem, right? Like a pizza takes 10 minutes to cook. I don't care if you give me $1 million, I can't cook a pizza in 30 seconds.
You can,
like a legit pizza. Right? Well,
exactly. I mean, you can
if you just want to like, it'll turn out weird, but you know what I mean. Like it's just
exactly. It's not what you
your
want.
next flashy Monster Hunter is not going to be later because of Rise. You know.
Yeah, and the thing is, this has always been something that this was something that I've lived for a long time, which was like I didn't have a 3DS. All I had was like I think it was PS3 and the Wii, and I was like, I want to play the new Monster Hunters, but on this portable console, and I don't want to play it on the portable console. Like I've lived through all of that, so I know exactly what it's like. After you've had a taste of Monster Hunter, and then you know that you don't have the platform to play the next one that is coming.
It sucks, yeah.
Yeah, it really
and
sucks.
So like, and I don't want to ruffle feathers, but I will say like one thing that I think people tend to forget is they're like, well, the communities were finally, you know, merged and everybody on every platform got to play Monster Hunter World. It was multi-platform. The world was right. And now they're going back to single platform. I'm like, look in the perspective of someone who only owns the Switch.
Yeah, exactly.
Monster Hunter World was not a multi-platform, wonderful peaches and roses. Like they didn't get to play the game. It sucks.
The people who only got Switch, they got the remaster of GU, which I mean, yeah, it is kind of like a remaster because it was Double Cross on 3DS, but here it only came out on Switch. So they got the GU, which it was still really good. Like I still enjoyed it. I actually thought I wasn't going to like it as much as I ended up enjoying it, but I still really enjoyed it. So, you know, it was something to have on the Switch, but obviously we wanted the Switch Monster Hunter. And I told people when they were asking me, Rurikhan, you know, are we going to have Monster Hunter on the Switch? I was like, oh yeah, 100%. 100%. And then they're like, Monster Hunter World PS4. I was like, oh, oops. Maybe I made a mistake.
Yeah. But I mean, I look at stuff like Monster Hunter World, and there's things in there to me that say this is designed the way it is because they knew it was a home console game.
Exactly.
Like this longer play sessions, getting, let's say, even like
There's the 16 people raids, essentially the sieges of Gulf to Roth and whatnot, the siege of Safi.
Well, just look at like in investigations, right? Like it's basically the guild quest system for Monster Hunter 4U, which was endgame and optional, and they pretty much made it almost essential because there's not that many optional quests in the game. So if you want to hunt certain monsters, you got to get investigations for them, and the reason why you want to do that is because everything's based upon the drops of the decorations, which are RNG, and everything was just built around playing with a lot of people for a long time in front of a TV. Like they would not design it that way if they thought, okay, we need this to be a 10-minute in and out experience. Like you have to be able to do like one hunt over lunch, offline. You know,
it's a very different experience, and you know, again, I just think it's mostly because. You know, people are feeling left out because it's not on their platform. And I feel like a lot of people have been there where the game that you want's not on your platform. And it's just frustrating. So it's like, I can also understand it. But
yeah, I get that for sure.
I hope that people, you know, eventually they'll be like, okay, fine, you guys get your Rise now. And then eventually like 2 years from now, I would assume, or something like that, 1-2 years from now. Yeah. We get the next one in PlayStation 5, and we're all going to be there playing it as well. PlayStation 5, Xbox, Series X, all that. And PC, hopefully this time at the same time.
Yeah. I also think that there's a lot of new people who join Monster Hunter with World, which I think is awesome. And they don't have the context of how they usually release these games, right? So like you know, if you were to judge it off of other bigger studios, Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, it's like, okay, we're going to get a new game every 2 years or something. It's like, it's not like that. It's never been like that. And sure, it'd be great if it was like that, but it's just not. So
I don't
I think there's some
necessarily think it
frustration
would.
there.
I don't think it'd necessarily be great if it was like that, because one of the things that turns me off of Assassin's Creed is precisely because they released so many of them that I was like, I can't keep up. Like, I tried, but I can't keep up with this game. They just keep releasing more and more and more and more and more. It's like, it's more of a quality versus quantity thing. And even though there are a
Yeah.
lot of Monster Hunter games, generally, that at least from the ones that I've played, which is like 3U, 4U, Generations is actually the one that I probably liked the least. Generations Ultimate was much better because it had more content, obviously. But Generations was actually the one that I was like, it was a little bit hard for me to get into it. But yeah, all of them to me were pretty much quality games.
Yeah, it sucks. I mean, it's not on every console, but it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm probably going to be wrapping up this episode here. We wanted to talk also about Dragon's Dogma, Dark Souls, but we're already like expanding the episode so much that it just wouldn't feel right to talk about it at this point. We have planned to do 3, maybe more, depending on how things go, of Third Fleet podcasts with me and Gaijin. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. If you are, make sure to leave a comment. Let us know what you think about it. I'm going to be putting all of Gaijin's links in the description or in a pinned comment. It's going to be right below the video. So that you guys make sure to go to his channel, check him out. I mean, what am I saying? You've already been there if you're in my channel, 100%. Like 100% you've already been there. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
No plugs. I just hope everyone's as healthy and as happy as they can be. And yeah, I can't wait for the next trailer for Monster Hunter Rise. It's supposed to come by the end of the year, so hopefully soon. But I'm just having fun talking about Monster Hunter and stuff with you. So
we're gonna
nothing
have
to
we're gonna have so much fun breaking these trailers down and analyzing every little bit of thing, dude. It's gonna be so awesome. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for this episode of Third Fleet Podcast. Do remember, if you enjoyed the content, subscribe, bell notification, all of that stuff. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.
happy hunting.